All right, welcome Dana Banana. This mic is all yours.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, loud and clear.
All right. It is nice to be here. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit nervous because I'm still rather new at this, but that's okay because I'm letting all that stuff be here, including whatever nervousness might decide to show up. This has been a time of allowing. So I figured I would start off. I know a lot of people do this. I'm going to start off saying the truly helpful prayer because I mean it. I love this prayer. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent Him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because He who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever He wishes, knowing He goes there with me. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. And it's funny, as I was just saying that, I felt resistance come up when I said I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. And the only thing that I can take from that is that there would have been a time where part of me would have batted that away. Like I don't want to see that and I don't want to believe it, but I'm in a place where it doesn't matter at this point how upsetting a thought or a wish or whatever resistance that comes up in response to anything. I'm just allowing it to be there. It's okay that I have nervousness with that sentence, that I don't yet trust that I'm content to be wherever he wishes, because that's coming up for healing too. And so I don't want to deny that. I want to let it be exactly as it is. Um, we were talking about the code last week, and I do have that up and figured we can certainly go ahead and go back into reading that because I think it's extremely helpful. It's been very helpful to me. But as I was sitting, I think about 20 minutes ago, and praying upon what would be most helpful for me to discuss today because I don't know anything. I don't know what anything is for. This is the place that I am at. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what the symbol is or how much I think I can identify it. I truly don't know anymore what anything is or what it's for. And this is just the place I live in right now. And it's just one of those, all I could do was trust. And normally that would be such a scary thing for me. But I actually feel relief in that. I'm thankful I don't have to trust my own interpretations or beliefs in anything, which led to what showed up. I had a couple of different topics in mind, but it was like, that doesn't mean anything. I don't really know what anything is for, and I don't know what this meeting is for. I don't know what me talking in this meeting is for. So Holy Spirit, I'm teaching what I'm supposed to learn. What would you have me learn? What would you have me teach? And I believe what an idea had shown up in my head, and it had to do with a realization. It's not a new one, but it was a maybe more expanded realization that had shown up in my awareness over this last week, and it went something like this. I do not recall any time in my life where I deliberately asked for any specific thoughts or beliefs or opinions or judgments of any kind to be assigned to anything or anyone. Yet, I can tell you that I have spent my entire life completely wrapped up in and absorbed in beliefs and opinions and preferences and judgments and the like. And I can't tell you where any of them came from. And it kind of leads back into the code, insofar as what made Dana the way she is, right? What makes her like what she likes and dislike what she dislikes? What makes her have any judgment or opinion or belief about anything? And the answer to that question is I have no idea. It seems they were all just there. And if, I don't know about any of you guys, but if you pay attention, you might even find that over time, seemingly naturally, some of those preferences and likes and dislikes tend to change over time. And it's like, where does that come from? Right? Where even does that come from? So I don't know where any of that comes from. So how can I take any of these likes, dislikes, preferences, judgments, opinions, and what have you? How can I take any of them seriously or take any of them as truth? I don't even know where they come from. So it's just, for me, it was just a very helpful question insofar as why do I do anything that I do? Why do I think anything that I think? Why do I believe anything that I believe? And it seems that that was all encoded in whatever Dana's experience was supposed to be. And it kind of seems to come down to this default versus deliberate decision-making ability. And we are all, and this is where it again, it leads into the code, where it appears that we're all sort of set up with a set of default ways of being, right? Again, the likes, the dislikes, everything that seems personal to you. And once you stand back from that and you kind of take a look at it, and it's like, I don't recall ever consciously asking for any of this. I don't remember actually deciding on any of this. It's default. And that as a course student, I suppose my job is to stand back from all of that, take a look at it, and just go, I don't know what any of this is, but it appears I'm a decision maker. And I actually don't even know what I'm deciding for at this point. I can only say that I am deciding not for, I won't even say against, I'm deciding not for the default system of thought that showed up in my awareness. And every single day, I can't say all day, every day just yet, but I can say a lot. I don't know what that percentage would be. I am looking at the thoughts and the beliefs and everything that shows up and just basically shrugging and going, I don't know what any of this is for, but it appears it's code, right? It appears it's code. This is all just seemingly here. And as my only job is to just look at it and decide for truth. It's all day, every day. And in all of that, it has been a practice of allowing everything that wants to come up, no matter how uncomfortable it is, no matter how terrible I might look in the grand scheme of things as the one seemingly having the thoughts or opinions. Allow it all to be there and show me what it is that I have not been seeing over the last 50 something years of my life. And this is the practice. I was in the I was in your meeting last night, talking about A Course of Love and talking about the different books and this and that. I would probably put my 2 cents in there and say I've gotten not just a kick out of for because I think it's an easy read. They're all easy reads, but I put my 2 cents in there as far as like Gary Renard's books, The Disappearance of the Universe, and all of the subsequent books, because the underlying message, no matter what is said and no matter who is saying it is all here for forgiveness. That is everything's only purpose, no matter what it is. And so my process, my practice at this point of forgiveness is letting it all up, practicing the Sedona method on it, kind of combining it with the code and recognizing its falsity, but the fact that yes, it does appear to be here. This does seem to be an experience I'm having. And how painful the thought or the belief could be, but can I just let it be here? can I let this experience, can I let the thoughts, can I let the fears and the judgments and the anger and whatever it is that appears to be showing up in response to this, can I just let it be here? It's actually lesson 268 in the workbook. Let all things be exactly as they are. And for somebody who did not realize she was a control freak, but within the last year has finally realized, yes, yes, that does seem to be a character trait that I've not looked at. It's interesting to just sit back and recognize this need to fix things, this need to identify things as a certain way, with a certain set of beliefs and a certain set of judgments about how things should look and how things shouldn't look. And then remembering, like I'm snapping out of a haze of some sort. Oh yeah, I don't know what anything is for. I should just let this be here exactly as it is because I have no idea what it's trying to tell me. Let it all just be here. Can I feel the heart space open up and welcome all of it in, no matter how crappy it seems? Can I just let it all in? And something had shown up within the last week of practicing it, and that was to sort of look at all of that noise and let it know that it was safe. You're safe here. Awful belief, awful, painful thought. Oh my gosh, the condemnation I could feel towards someone or something, the attack thoughts, defense thoughts, all of it, the judgments, all of it. Yes, I can let you, not only can I let you be here, but I will welcome you. And when it's all said and done, I can feel such tremendous gratitude for you being here and showing yourself to me and to let you know that you are safe here. You are safe here. And I am willing to release you if you're willing to be released. And so that has been my practice. And I can tell you it's been extremely helpful because I don't know about you guys, but I've had some huge bouts of fear that have come to the surface. I went on a road trip last weekend. And what's interesting is these used to not bother me at all. Like I would look forward to them and didn't even think about whether or not there could be dangers on the road or what have you. But I've noticed over the last few years that the fear has been rising to the surface about these road trips. Now, I've also noticed in the last year that my seemingly specific fears really don't seem to be all that specific anymore. Now they're looking abstract. I have recognized that it is an abstract form of fear that is rising up from the surface. It takes on specific forms, specific symbols, but I can't attribute the fear to any of the symbols because really it's just everything, right? So I started to feel this last Wednesday. I went on the road trip Thursday, I came back Saturday. So it was last Wednesday it started to just rise up. Something had just triggered it. And before I knew it, I was just sitting in this vat of sorrow and fear and angst and anxiety and just, oh, and separation anxiety too, because most of the time I take these road trips on my own. Sometimes my husband will come with me. He opted not to come with me this last time. And I did not used to feel the separation anxiety when I used to take these trips, but I've started to feel it recently and it was palpable last week. So it was the same practice, right? Whereas I know in the past I would have tried to reason it away. I would have distracted myself away from it. I sat here, the weather even reflected my state of mind, right? It was kind of dark and stormy out there. He was having a problem with his computer. I actually didn't even know if it was going to be able to be fixed. So that was kind of adding to it. And I'm thinking, all of this. It's just this giant ball of dark, seemingly dark, fearful energy. Can I just let this be here? And I had made a quick mental note that I knew I would even be tempted to kind of hope that maybe his computer situation would maybe resolve itself. but I had also noticed that I wasn't feeling terribly attached to that. I was much, much more focused on allowing all of the crap to be here, allowing this darkness to just rise up and look at it with the light of truth. Of course, I always invite Holy Spirit to look with me. This is not a solo activity. And even if I don't necessarily feel Holy Spirit in my mind, it's sort of become that I've invited this in. This is how I choose to look. This is the intention. I know the intention is as pure as I'm possibly capable of allowing it to be at this point, and I think that's just going to have to be good enough. I let it all just be there. I let it do its thing. A lot of tears came out, maybe some shaking, what have you. And then all of a sudden, it just went away, right? It just went away. And interestingly enough, his computer problem seemed to solve itself too. So this is how I approached everything that happened over the weekend. I had even had a night, it was the night before I was going to come back. I couldn't sleep. I had woken up in the middle of the night. I was feeling very much afraid. I was, oh no, I'm not going to be able to sleep. I'll be too tired to drive the next day. And all of this fear just came to the surface. And it's funny, it was after like an hour and 15 minutes of totally stressing with all of this that it like hit me. It was like, oh, I need to practice release on this too, right? This is no different. And interestingly enough, I couldn't even get past the part of, am I willing to let this all be here? Because once I went into that phase, and allowed all that stuff up. Next thing I remember, I'm waking up the next morning. So clearly I fell asleep. So after an hour and 15 minutes of struggling, all I had to do was let it all be there exactly as it was. And then I just fell asleep. I didn't even see it happening. So this is just it seems to be, for me right now, seems to be the best practice. Can I let this all be here? Can I let this all be here? Can I welcome everything up? Can I look at the contents of what appears to be in this mind and just let it all be here, show itself to me? Like I'm that little child and I'm afraid of the little noises and shadows maybe that I'm seeing or hearing in the closet. Am I willing to invite Holy Spirit in, which is like turning on the light and opening up those closet doors and just saying, what am I looking at? And realizing that they're just shadows. It's a lot easier said than done sometimes. I'm not going to pretend that this is always an easy thing to do. I had to practice it, I don't know, maybe 2 hours ago, when something else had happened and it seemed troubling and this and that. And it was like, oh, I have this opportunity to just let it all be here. So it has been so, so very, very helpful. And when I look out at the world, and I don't, I'm not really a news person, right? I maybe do a little bit of scrolling on Yahoo, but I really don't pay that much attention to the stories at this point because to me they're all like one story, different versions of the same story. Yeah, we think we're separate and we're all acting out and it's getting crazy and it's getting loud and it's showing up in this form and it's showing up in that form. And to me, it's like I'm getting to this place where I get that this is the projection on the screen. So nothing real specific tends to get to me at this point, but the noise in and of itself, the generalized angst that seems to be happening out there. You look at these little wars that are, and I'm just saying little wars because to me they're all just wars. They're eruptions of human angst. You see the volcanic activity that appears to be happening, these earthquakes that appear to be happening, all of this solar and electromagnetic activity that seems to be taking place. To me, they're all symbols in a dream, and that's about how I look at them. But I feel that depending on how we look at these things, it could be very telling. It could either be very scary or it could be very interesting. And right now, I'm looking at it as very interesting because I had recently purchased and listened to Ken Wapnick's the ego strikes back, the return of the repressed. And toward his introduction in that, he's basically talking about how everything we shove down in the mind, eventually it's got to find an outlet. And I'm just kind of hanging back, and it's like, wow, how much stuff have we been suppressing for eons upon generations? What is back there that is showing up in the world because we haven't allowed it up in our minds? And I personally, and it's just you can call it a theory. I wouldn't even necessarily call it a belief because I don't know anymore what I believe. I'm obviously seeing what I'm believing as it shows up in form. But what is this? Like, what is all this? It feels like intense energy, and it's showing up in all these different forms, right? The weather, these eruptions, and some of the Earth's structures, and even in human thought and behavior. And it all, to me, points back to what Ken was talking about, the return of the repressed. And I think this is why things are looking so crazy. I think it's because we've come to a time, especially if you want to combine it with terms like mass awakening, celestial speed ups, and with all of these individuals doing this kind of work, letting go of the things that no longer serve us, letting go of all of the things that make us believe in separation, all of this whole dream of separation and everything that has contributed to it. As more and more people let this go and more light comes in, it's going to cause a dissonance for a little while. It's going to perhaps show itself as pressure because new is coming in, but we've still got to release the old. And so it kind of erupts out there. And it's sort of that we are in a time and in a place where we are now heavily, heavily encouraged to look as best as we can at what we can look at. And so I think that this is the generalized angst. I think that this is simply a matter of it's not so much what's going on in the world and who's doing this and who's doing that. That those are the stories, those are the symbols it's showing up in. But I really believe that I just said I wasn't going to use the word believe. I really theorize that what we're looking at is we're looking at a change taking place, and it's a change in the mind. And once the seeming chaos of it um, settles down, I don't know when that would be. I don't know what that would look like. I think what this is actually leading to is very, very good news. But I think we're going to have to do our work. And my work is exactly what I just described and discussed. So, one thing I promised myself I was going to do this time around, which I did not do last time because I didn't know any better, is I'm going to look at the chat. So, let's see here. Um, Good for you. You're not alone in this blessings. That's from Elizabeth. Generalized anxiety manifests in the first fearful thought. Stephen King made a fortune on it. That is so funny, Lynn. I was like thinking, I'm going to get on here and I'm going to go, okay, everybody, yes, I guess we're here to discuss our Stephen King favorite book novels, right? No, have read that too, find it challenging, yet unnecessary with the right frame of, yet necessary with the right frame of mind and guide repressed guilt. And then Dove, thank you, Dove. You're a great teacher, Dana. I appreciate that. I have no idea what kind of teacher I am. So I have just yammered on for about 26 minutes, and I want to know if any of you have any thoughts about anything that has just been said.
I agree with everything you said. Everything. Totally.
Oh, thank you, Dove. Thank you, Dove. Sharon.
Yes, you mentioned the code. Which code are you talking like when you say that, what are you talking about?
Okay, yes, that was I am referring to Regina Dawn Akers.
Right, I figured. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah, she was our teacher for years too. Yeah. So you came from Gather, right, Dana? But did you?
Yeah, actually, I was invited, my friend Mickey had invited me to,
Oh,
you know,
good. Okay. Yeah. So
yeah.
are you still with Awakening Together?
I'm not actually with Awakening Together, but sh Mickey was a facilitator for a 52-week course I had taken a couple of years ago. That's how I met her. And actually, she had brought up Regina Dawn Akers um,
Right.
in
Yeah.
one of the sessions, and so I started listening to her. And just recently, I want to say within the last month or two. She has just completely caught my attention. I have devoured whatever I could devour for. I've gone through all of her clarifying the teaching, some of them several times, and I stumbled across the code. I've listened to that and her clarifications on the code twice already. And I just love her teaching style. I love what she says. And so I was talking about it one night in the Thursday night group a few weeks ago when Dove had mentioned, to go into it further, would I be willing to, to go into that further? So that's what I did last week.
Yeah, you're a great teacher. You can tell that you're very seasoned. You're very clear. Uh, I've loved everything you said. And yeah, well, what happened was I started with Gather, and Regina was a beginning teacher in here, and then I went over to Awakening Together, and now I'm back because they didn't have Zoom because I really want to just concentrate on the course now. But I know her code. It's. I used to say it all the time, like that's code, that's code. But I'd have to relearn it again, because I forget it now.
Ah, okay.
But you're equally as good teacher. Regina was fabulous, but so are you.
I appreciate that. This is actually my second time, quote unquote, teaching. And I've been a course student for about maybe just a little over 2.5 years. But
You're
before the
kidding, because
course,
you're so
yeah.
seasoned. Like it's unbelievable. Well, you probably did other stuff. Did you do NTI or Regina's other book or?
No, I have not done any formal teaching, but I would say about, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago, something prompted me to awaken. It was kind of in combination with noticing things in the world and then something in my personal life and noticing the unraveling of certain concepts and beliefs that I had had about things, including some stuff in my personal life, which sort of led to an overall question, what the heck is all this and what does it mean? Right?
Right. That's
Yeah.
great. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is, you don't sound like you've just been doing this 2.5 years. You have like a really solid way of sharing. I love it. So,
I
Well, she said
appreciate
she
it.
awakened, and I think that's it. That being awake is what makes you a good teacher.
what
That's
did
what
you just say, Lynn? I couldn't hear that.
she said when she awakened a few years ago. And that's what I hear, a very clear, awake person. And
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
she must have you had maybe a spontaneous awakening. Is that what you're saying, Lynn?
I don't know what I'm saying. You might ask her.
Well, because it's funny because we don't even look at that word anymore, awakened, because we all are. But you just have some very 2.5 years is not a long time with a book as A Course in Miracles have your clarity. So that's why I said something.
Yeah,
I
and what
appreciate.
I was pointing out is that she was already there. So 2.5 years is nothing. And
Well,
I would, could you explain, could you talk about your experience maybe a little bit, Donna? I know you weren't probably planning on that, but since it came up, I'd love to hear. Or
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm at this point, I'll go into anything, figuring it could start off one way and veer off into another way, and that's going to be absolutely perfect. So I personally don't care what we talk about. So, and as far as me, let me just say I do not consider myself awakened. I don't even know if I've had a spiritual awakening. But what I can tell you is reality as it presented itself about 12, 13 years ago came up for question. And it was one thing to sort of look out into the world and start questioning those things. But like I said, something happened in my own life. It was in a close relationship, and some stuff came out, and it was like, this changes how I've looked at certain relationships throughout my entire life that is suddenly not what it appeared to be. So, and because that had hit me on such a personal level, combined with, and now the world, does not appear to be what I thought it was. It really kind of shook me up inside. And I spent, I don't know, the next couple of years sort of in this questioning my thoughts place and looking at things. And out of nowhere, it just seemed that all kinds of concepts that I had held unquestioned throughout my life started coming up for questioning and often proving themselves to not have any real merit to them. And I think my desire at that time to get as close to truth as possible was sincere and it was genuine, but it was also limited. Like I believed, I believed in God. I would talk to God, but I really didn't know what God was. And I gave absolutely no thought to the Holy Spirit or anything like that. And there was still a lot of ego in there. Like I thought I understood what ego was. Ego is our titles and our accomplishments and our identification with form. I didn't realize that ego is like the entire dream, right? Or as Regina would call it, I guess the fourth principle of God. So, and I'd say in late 2022, it had gotten to a place where I began to question. This fear was coming up. It was so, but it wasn't so much the fear. The fear I was always cognizant of. It was more of, now I'm looking at the fear and realizing how ridiculously all-encompassing it is. And it was like, everything looks scary to me, right? Walking outside the front of my house, it seems like there's threats, there's bugs and this and snakes. And I mean, heck, you could even like, plants could be poisonous, right? The weather could be scary. It seemed like there was just no end, no limit to the amount of fearful things that were out there, threatening things, in addition to the body, right? I'm 52 now, but it was like I was noticing some of this ridiculous nonsense that the body was doing and how complicated all of its systems were and how much you had to dig to find the root cause of whatever you seemed to have at the time. And I have an autoimmune disease, and even realizing that it was like even autoimmune disease is idiopathic. Nobody even knows where they come from. And I looked up at one point, I just looked up at the ceiling, and to me, I was talking to God, and it was like, really, is this the best you can do? I could hear George Carlin in my mind, right? Because he did the same thing. He said the same thing. Really, is this the best you could do? You're supposed to be this perfect creator. Make no mistakes. I mean, it doesn't get any higher or better than this. And yet you can create plants that if you touch them, you'll get a skin disease. I mean, what is this? And it just hit me that it was like, none of this makes sense. I just, from there on out, it was like, I don't know what this is, but I don't buy it. And I'm not going to believe it anymore. And that I'm not going to be okay until some kind of clarity, some kind of truth shows up. And then fast forward, I guess, a few months, and I wound up stumbling into A Course in Miracles. And actually, the reason I stumbled, I had heard of it. I had heard of it for the last 30 years, but I never actually opened and looked at the course. I kind of felt like, I could really use a miracle. And on top of it, I had started reading David Hawkins' books. And he had mentioned the course, but he had also mentioned how he calibrated a whole bunch of these religious and spiritual texts. So, A Course in Miracles, I think he had calibrated, I don't know, at like a 600 or something like that, and was like, you know what, I want to know what this is about. I've heard about it, almost 30 years. What is this course saying? I started to read the beginning of it, and it was like something just washed over me. I can't even explain it, but it was like This is it. And then I thought, let's check out the workbook lesson. I mean, when it comes to committing to anything, I'm usually kind of a commitment phobe. I don't like to make commitments. I never know what's going to happen or how I'm going to feel. Don't ask me how. I have been married for over 20 years, but that hasn't been a big commitment problem. But with everything else, and it's like 365 days I got to do this. Well, let's see what lesson one is about. Lesson one, nothing I see means anything. And I just got giddy, right? I read that lesson and I got giddy. I was like, I love it already. I went through the workbook twice. I'm not going to pretend I did it perfectly every time, but I went through it twice. I had decided to take a little break from it this year. I kind of just read what I want to read out of the text or out of the workbooks, but that's pretty much where I've been. I I read through the entire text. I read through the entire manual, the clarifications of terms, the psychotherapy pamphlet, and the Song of Prayer. I've read them all, and now I just go back and read passages. And there's something in it. There's just something in the material that something in me seemed to either resonate with or recognize or what have you. So, and now I'm just on this path, and now there is no going back, right? There's just no going back. So as far as awakened, I don't know if I'm awakened or not. I did catch myself at certain times wondering, oh, I wonder what stage I'm in, or what is awakening and this and that. And I think I'm at this place now where it's like, who wants to know? Right? Does it matter? Even if you told me, would I even interpret it properly? Does it mean anything? I have no idea where I am in this process. I'm just allowing and recognizing that I'm going to allow whatever shows up to show up. I don't know what any of it is. I don't even know what truth is, right? But I would actually rather have trust and faith in what at least I'd like to be the truth than to continue to put any trust and faith into this chaos. So it's like not knowing what's true is still better than believing that all of this is true, if that makes any sense. So,
Yeah, that makes total sense. I love that. Absolutely love that. And yes, absolutely. When you come to the place where you recognize that this is not the world that God made, and that even though we see now that the only reason that it's not is because I'm projecting my own thinking onto something that was already perfect, and giving it meanings that it doesn't even have. So I love that. I love that whole story, and yeah, beautifully shared, as Karen said.
thank
And
you.
I'm sure anybody else might want to say something. Put your hand up. Anyway, go ahead, Dana.
Oh, me. Yeah.
Yes, you.
Yeah. That's pretty much what it all comes down to for me. Oh, okay, here. Elizabeth.
Is it pronounced Dana?
Yeah.
Dana. I am so grateful that I was guided to stay on to listen to you today, because it was the least thing I was going to do every time I heard your name. I kept thinking of Rosanna, Dana, Bana, and things. I go, here goes another one. And you are so speaking my language recently to the T. I say I could do what you're doing and get on there and said, hey, they want people to fill in spots. And part of me says, oh no, but I realize there's stuff in there and I really don't feel to commit to that at this time. And I just want to let you know that I asked Lynn for an updated schedule because I don't seem to have these current ones. Somewhere it got lost in all Hyberland. And I just want to encourage you, because sometimes we get so pronounced on speaking the truth, but what you're speaking is also how we're not speaking the truth and being able to see it. Just when you said, I just went out the door to pick up a package that was delivered from Prime Amazon. I swore yesterday I was never going to buy another book. I've got a few Kindles, but it says sometimes you have too much material. And I was in a class course last night about the guilt, and they used the purple book, The Circle of Atonement. I said, well, I can use the regular book because we're studying the ego's use of guilt. Somebody said, I'm going to buy it for you and send it to you. Like, I was like, not even going to go there. I said, I'll just use this. And like Spirit said, say yes. I said, okay. And they sent it Prime. And I went to the door just as you were speaking. Something said, look, and it's there already. So when we're done, I get my assignment because it's the least chapter I want to look at when we talked about the repressed guilt. But now I know I'm just going to get myself ready and just read it, not try to judge it, just at least read it without judgment as much, there'll be judgment. So the way you're speaking so clearly, honestly, I'm very grateful. Even if you say in 2 weeks you're done, that's fine. So I just want to thank you and anyone that's here with you, because you're speaking something that, we're trying to be so perfect, but the imperfections also get to be imperfectly expressed. So thank you for stepping up and stepping in where I know I could, but I can't. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I truly appreciate your words. It's funny. I was told after I had finished that year-long course, I'm not exaggerating, 5 people told me that I should step in and facilitate one of those myself. And I didn't, I just wasn't ready, right? I just wasn't ready. And there was nothing I was going to be able to do to make myself be ready. But it was sort of, okay, that's really nice. And it was a huge compliment. But I had a feeling that the opportunity would present itself again. If this was something I was supposed to do, then the opportunity would present itself again. And it did. And I was going to go for it. It was the same thing, and it just didn't work out. And I realized that I still was not ready. And I had only been joining in on Thursday evenings with the Gather group, I don't know, maybe 2 months. And I don't talk a lot. I mean, I started to volunteer to read a paragraph here and there, but I wasn't going to get in and really do a whole lot of talking. But one day, it was a few weeks ago, somebody had shared something and a light popped in my head. It was like, I think there's something perhaps that could come out of me in response to this. I can relate. And I spoke, and then I was asked to teach. And I didn't see it coming. And I went through a tug of war then too. It was like scared. I was scared. I was like, oh my goodness. Maybe I wouldn't have said anything if I had known I was going to be asked to teach, but then it was like, no, no, no. I think I'm cool with this. And I let it be there. And as it turns out, this was just everything about it felt right. And so if you're ever
Oh, if I
encouraged,
could tell you one more, this is, I'll say a little humorous thing, because actually for the first night as I ended the class, there was something and he's an elderly gentleman, said that for the first time I found humor in something with this ego thing. And when I walked out the door, and I live in the west coast of Florida, and we've been having a lot of storms recently pass through, not the big ones yet, but it's like warming up, literally. And I opened the front door. The rumbles are in the background. And I looked down to see what debris was in front of my door. And I saw this thing near the package. And you talked about the bugs and everything. And I've had too many experiences where I've been bitten by hornets and all kinds of stuff. And I stared at the stick and I kicked it with my foot and it jumped. And I was like, and you had just spoken about witnessing. There was a time where we wouldn't, but now it really gets us to look at that. And so literally that just happened a few minutes ago after you had just shared all that. And I was just witnessing my reaction, because sometimes we don't, but there's times where I think there was something you said earlier, which really got to me. about the code and the programming, that it's so hidden. We have to be so alert to even what we think our own personal triggers are, because we don't even know when they're going to show up, except some part of us does know. So again, thank you for this different kind of presentation, because it's, in my opinion, again, really needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, what you just said reminds me, first of all, I know how difficult it is to look at the stuff that comes up. I mean, I don't know about anybody else. I won't speak for anybody else. I know how wired I was to do whatever I could to deny or try to paint a prettier or more spiritual picture on things, make it sound better, especially make me sound better. And it's it can be just so difficult to let that inner ugliness, whatever it is, to come up, right? We need to, I think for me, one of the most telling sections in the course is in chapter 31, the self concept versus the self, or the concept of the self. It's titled one of those things. But in it, it gets into, I've read it so many times at this point, and it just gets into, we've spent our entire lives developing a concept of ourself, and this is the self that we want to show the world. It's the face of innocence, but what we don't want to see is the face that this face of innocence is hiding or turning away from. But it governs everything, right? It governs everything because it hangs out back there unacknowledged, unnoticed, and it's totally running the show. And yet we're trying to do everything we can to build and maintain a concept that keeps that in the dark and keeps it in denial. So it's like, it's hard to look at this stuff. And I personally, because my level of fear is so great at this time, I know that there are just times not to push it, right? However, I had given myself permission, this is already a year or two ago, where it was like, I know I can practice this on the seemingly small things. There's something in the course. I don't remember. It might be a workbook lesson. I don't remember exactly. I'll have to look it up. But where it's talked about, it's like those thousand irritations or those thousand little whatever they are throughout the day that just build up and build up and build up. And these are the things that we just constantly overlook, right? Chalk them up as, oh, well, it was a technical glitch here or there or mistake or what have you. Well, one day a couple of years ago, I went to fill up my coffee pot to get it ready for the next morning. And I have the water in the pot, and I take the canister, the lid off of the canister of the coffee. And as I go to put that lid back on, it slid off the top and fell to the floor. Now, let me just tell you, the canister of coffee itself did not fall. Absolutely no coffee got anywhere. Nothing really happened, but the lid slid off and I wasn't expecting it to. And I noticed this surge. That's the only way I can explain it. It was a surge of anxiety-ridden rage that came up, right? I wasn't expecting that. Like, I guess if you're just kind of walking along and you stub your toe and just that feeling comes within you. And I noticed it. This time I noticed it. At any other time, it would have just fizzled back into the unconscious mind, but this time it did not. This time I looked at it and I was like, wow, look at what just came out. And yet nothing even happened. No mess, nothing to clean up, no harm done. But this whatever, this ball of, this ball of frustration, this anger, so much that I could feel that radiation coming out of my chest area kind of thing. It just rose up there. I let it be there and then I looked at it and thought, interesting. There really are no small upsets. They are all equally disturbing to my peace of mind. And that was a turning point for me because that was when I realized that sometimes it might be very, very difficult, especially as a newer student or somebody who's not used to practicing the material, to apply it, to like the seemingly bigger things that just seem kind of catastrophic, but we certainly can do it much easier, at least to just develop the practice on the seemingly small things that happen. So that was, I would say, my start, but it was just so telling. Look at what just came out of me, and yet nothing happened. So, what does that explain, right? It just explains that if it came out, it's because it's in there. So, I'm willing to look at the fact that it's in there. So, that was that experience for me. Yeah. I'm now looking. There's no hierarchy of illusions. No, there's not. No, there's not. And I don't know about you guys, but that brings me so much relief every time I realize that there is no hierarchy of illusions or any order of difficulty in miracles. So, but yeah, this has been my practice. Like I said, I'm not going to pretend I think it's the easiest thing to do, but at this point, even even in the disappearance of the universe, it had come out. The idea is to make the practice, get it so that the practice of forgiveness is as automatic as the judgment that comes up. And I remember I read that and it was kind of like, I could see the truth in that, but I can also see that that's going to take a lot of work, right? That's an entire rewiring, so to speak, of the thought process. That's a lot of undoing because once I started to look, I started to also realize I had never seen it there in the past, that judgment is ready at the helm before anything. So that's a difficult pill to swallow when you finally see it for what it is. It's like before I even have a chance to look at whatever this thing may be, the judgment and the reaction to it is already there. It's there first. And that was actually part of what Regina was talking about with the code. She was talking about how, something happens, whatever reaction that comes out of you, that's also code. Right. So it all becomes a matter of, it doesn't really even matter how it's going to play out or what you're going to do about it. It's code. And our job is to look at the code. And as some, in the creative process, which is what we truly are, our job is we can edit that code by not accepting the code as true and then adding to it and sending it back out into the one mind. Yes, Lynn.
Yeah, this is great. I'm truly enjoying this. And yeah, the whole idea being that it's going to happen anyway. It's happening. That is the dream. It was an illusion. It was, a story written long ago. It's not changing. You're not going to change the story at all. But there are many, 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 many versions of the story. And we can step into any line, any timeline, any version of the story. And there's a version of the story that's called the real world. And that's, the version of the story that, I I tend to want to look for. And it's exactly as you say, it's by looking at these small irritations, these thoughts, these ideas, these grievances, these imaginings that there is something in the world that is not only has a reality, but has a reality that's enough to destroy God, which is really kind of out there thought. But when you think about it, isn't that what belief in the world is? Is belief that, that we could have made a reality that could have just obliterated God and taken God out of the picture completely. And so recognizing that no, that never happened, and that God is fully in the picture, And God is in everything I see. God is in everything I experience. And the only reason that I'm not experiencing it in joy is because I'm choosing to see it with judgment. I'm choosing to see it as something I object to. And so, as long as I'm objecting to what it is I see, let me not be your critic, oh Lord, today. you know, as long as I'm criticizing God for this life that I have, that is just a joyful, beautiful thing. And I'm thanking God for my thank you for my life, but could you get me a different car? Thank you for my life, but I need to lose some weight. Thank you. No, there's no buts in the thank you for my life. It's thank you for everything in my life, and it's all perfect just the way it is. So I appreciate so much your position and the way that you're seeing things, and I'm just so grateful that you are here with us and that you're a part of our group and our family. And Karen has posted, "I must have decided wrongly if I'm not at peace." And absolutely, weren't we just saying that? And when we were reading that from the book earlier, Karen, were you not reciting it in your mind? Because that is one section of the course that I have absolutely memorized because it's absolutely it. I must have decided wrongly. So I'm not at peace. I can choose again. And Dana, I love your whole the whole talk. So I'll turn it back to you. I see Karen has her hand up.
Yes, go ahead, Karen. Thank you, Lynn.
Thanks, Lynn, and thanks, Dan. I missed the first half. It's so interesting. I mean, we're all the same. We're all going through the same thing. Exactly. Everything you shared is everybody's story, right? And what you shared about self and self-concept and about this world, I was just on the phone with a friend who was going through some stuff, and it's always bringing the awareness back to the mind and recognizing it's so simple. I am never upset for the reason I think. Ken Wapnick's twofold forgiveness process, and I could see peace instead of this. Lesson 5 and lesson 34. And I was telling my friend, there is nothing in this world that is safe. Nothing. And you will never find safety in the world.
Yeah.
And like, 'cause she was really feeling like these people are letting me down. I used to feel safe with this person. I don't feel safe anymore. I'm like, you're never going to feel safe in this world. This world is not safe. I said, it's the only hope as the real alternative. In chapter 31, section 4, I think it is, tells us that the only hope in this world is in your mind, is to choose the Holy Spirit in your mind, or whoever you choose your inner teacher to be. I choose to say Holy Spirit. That's it. And it's a decision. As you said, there's no small upsets. It's a decision. It's a decision to let anything destroy my peace. And I am getting so clear on that, whether it's the lid of a coffee pot or whether it's the lid of a coffee can or the whole coffee can and the coffee spills all over. I can still be at peace regardless. And I love this. I love this. Thank you for sharing that and just reinforcing the truth, because that's what we're here. We're all here to remember the truth. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you guys for welcoming me here. I see it's already an hour. It flew by. And yeah, didn't even have to read anything. So yeah. Thank you just so much. I'm speaking from the heart, and I'm speaking from this legitimate practice that I've been doing. It's always the same practice at this point. So, and that's pretty much what it is.
Thank you so
Well,
much, Anna.
I just want to again say on that note that there is a place to incorporate the course. Sometimes we go more into the readings and then a little bit of discussion. But something this opened up, and I feel there's some of us maybe need this little form, at least the way it is for a little while,
Mhm.
to integrate a little bit of the course. So not just spouse it off, but even just share without trying to make a big deal out of it, but just really witness it. Because in the moment, it is a big deal, no matter how much, because we do have while we hear these past experiences. Things are going on around us. And it's, you know, between being starkly insane and starkly sane. So again, with your guidance, when you get on to share, you said, oh, we didn't read so much. I just feel we had enough of the reading to integrate. We knew that with what you were just sharing. So my heart just says this was the perfect expression for today. So please rest well, because I feel all of us are agreeing the same thing. And it's more than a personal person, but in the broader sense. Again, rest well. This was a perfect expression for today.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, everyone who shared with us today. And so you'll be on again next Friday. Is that the 4th of July? If it is, if you have other obligations, you can let me know. But I'm always open because I'm always here.
I will be here, and independence is an inside job. I don't need to go anywhere.
All right. I love that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because that's how I feel too. All right, my love.